wanted to show how to create the rubrics on Canvas, how to use them in the assignments, and what are the different options we have in order to customize the rubrics for any particular purpose. So let's get started with how to create a rubric. One way to create a rubric is under the course, there will be an option to go into the rubrics, and then you can start creating the rubrics with specific criteria and the different levels of attainment for that criteria that the students can get. So let's start off with a sample rubric. And there are different parts of the rubric. The first part is the criteria. And in the criteria, we will specify what exactly the students should have achieved in this rubric item. So for example, if this is a presentation rubric, I could call this criterion the slide quality. And apart from just mentioning that this is the quality of the slides, I can provide a longer description. For example, the slides were easy to read, fonts were good, were appropriate size, and so on and so forth. I can mention a longer description of what I want in the criteria. Now, in terms of the ratings, how many points do you want to have in total? That can be changed by making a modification over here. Suppose I have assigned 10 points as the total score for slide quality, then that will be what it is here. In the rubric that Maria demonstrated, there were two categories. They either meet expectations or they need revision. So with the ratings, you have the flexibility of choosing more levels of attainment. So I could have a few more different ratings that sit between the full points and the 0 points. So for example, I could say the rating is 5 if the answer is partially correct, or in this case, quality is okay, for example. And I could write the description of the rubric, which can be those specific criteria that Maria was talking about. So here I can say that they used something like more than 2 of these are true. And I can say they used more than 10 bullet points in a slide, or there were no figures or no references or something like that. These can be the specific things about what qualifies them to get this particular score. And I can do the same thing for the full marks or the partial marks. I can add more criteria. I can add another criteria, or I can duplicate an existing criteria. And sometimes you might want to duplicate existing criteria if you have either the descriptions are very similar or the breakdown of the levels are very similar. Or you could, of course, create a new criteria. So once you do this criteria, and this rubric is part of your course. Typically, if you want to have the same type of criteria for multiple courses, it's a good idea to think about these rubrics. I mean, put these rubrics in your practice course and then copy it over to the course, because like Maria was showing, you can actually copy it over from any course. So once the rubric is created, you can add it to assignments by creating the assignment and adding the rubric like we just saw. So I can show you once again how that is done. So if I say this is a sample assignment and this is for 10 points, and I create the assignment, I can add the rubric, find it, and from my practice courses, yeah, there it is. So I can pick this rubric that we just created and I can use it. Alternatively, if I want to create the rubric while creating the assignment, I can do it in the same way that I did just now. Give this another sample rubric 2 and then make the changes. If you are finding a rubric and you're reusing it, and if you edit it, it's going to save it as a new rubric. So that's completely up to you if you want to do it that way or if you want to create the rubric right then and there. It depends on how you design the rubric and how you want to use it in your assignment. Now, in terms of how I can use it in my assignment, you can remove points from the rubric, which will tell you that when you use the rubric, you're not going to use it for scoring the assignment, but just to tell the students if they meet the specific criteria for the assignment or not. If you do use the points, you can have things like you're going to write free-form comments, in which case the split between the 10 points, 5 points, 0 points, those things vanish. And you can also say that you want to use this assignment for grading, which is similar to what Maria was showing, where you can select those numbers, and then once the rubric, the numbers on the rubric become final, they get published on the on the assignment. You can also hide the total score and whatnot. There are multiple different options that we have over here. So let me just show you a quick example of how it is like if we remove the points from the rubric and I want to score this assignment. So now I have updated the rubric, and let me publish it. And now I should be able to grade it. So yeah, sample assignment, and oh, sorry. I thought that it was not available. So I thought I need to submit the assignment. Anyway, so yeah, we go to Speed Grader. And this is where the rubric is available. And over here, as you can see, there is nothing that says that full marks is 10 on 10 or quality is okay is 5 on 10. So if I select quality is okay, the students know that this is the criteria that they have met. But then you can provide any score over here that you like for the quality is okay. So for example, for this student, I select 6 on 10. This might like the scoring is a bit arbitrary, because now we are saying that we are using rubrics, but we are not providing specific numbers for the rubric items, which means that we might have those question and answers with the students. Why did you give me 4 points versus 5 points? But I use this kind of rubrics mainly with specifications grading, the kind that Maria was showing us. It's very useful when you have those criteria, like the essential criteria, and then there is the non-essential elements that students have to complete a certain number of, and so on and so forth. So we can still show them that they're meeting expectations or exceeding expectations in certain criteria. And then we can use this grade number as a way to indicate whether or not they pass the assignment. Now I'm going to show you how we can do that, how we can use Canvas in order to tell us whether or not students pass the assignment. This is something I use for specifications grading a lot. So let me show you on the sample assignment itself. So right now the score appears as points. And students know that they have a particular number of points out of 10 and so on and so forth. But instead of points, if I want to tell the students whether or not they pass the quiz, you could write the description that if your score is greater than 5 on 10, that means you pass it. Or if it is greater than 2 on 10, that means you don't have to submit a revision. It's a low pass or something like that. But instead of that, if you want to directly tell them whether or not they pass the quiz, we can use the letter grade as a way to indicate it. When we think of letter grades, we mostly think of grading levels like A, B, C, D, and fail. With Canvas, we have an ability to use grading schemes in a slightly different way. Here, we can set grading schemes to be not just be A, B, C, D, but if we look at how we can manage the grading schemes, there is a way in which you can provide more than just A, B, C, D kind of grades. You can provide any alphabet as the grading. So suppose this is a pass-fail kind of a quiz or a pass-fail kind of a homework. And suppose in this case, if they score greater than 8 out of 10, they pass the quiz or something like that. Then you can specify in the point scale that if it is 8 out of 10 or greater, then you provide this. But if you have a very complex criterion which has several essential components and several non-essential components, that numbering becomes a little bit difficult to show. So in that case, we can just have a grading scale that is very simple. We just have two criteria. Oh, sorry. Yeah. This is pass and this is fail. So, and this can be 50, it doesn't matter. So, right over here now, it says that if I provide a number that's greater than 50%, that means their score is going to show as pass. And if I provide something less than 50%, it's going to show their score as fail. So this is my grading scheme that I want to use for the assignment. Now, when I save this, I go back to my assignment. And like I was saying, this is an assignment. I just want to be pass or fail. So now the arbitrary number of points that I set for the assignment can go away. I can say that this is worth only 1 point because it doesn't matter. I could give 1, 10,000, 50,000, it doesn't matter. And I will display the grade as a letter grade. And I'm going to select another grading scheme and select this new grading scheme that we just designed. So if I use this grading standard, and when I grade the assignment, if I give them 1 out of 1, that means they're going to pass. If I give them 0 out of 1, that means they're going to fail. And it's a excellent way to tell the students where they stand in their assignment without having to haggle with them on what their actual result is. So now for this student, if I'm grading it based on this rubric, I can use the rubric to tell them what criterion they satisfied. And apart from that, I can also tell them whether they passed or not. So if I say that they get 1, that means they pass. If I give them 0, they fail. So the grade appears in that letter grade format. So that's a great way of telling the students how they're doing. So this is a way of using letter grades and rubrics in specifications grading. Of course, if you want to use a different grading scheme, or if you want to use a different grading system, you can still use rubrics, and rubrics are a great way to tell students where they stand in the course. And I will also show you a couple of different rubrics that I have used in the past to show students if they're meeting criteria for a homework.